Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you are new to my channel, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. We actually hit 500 subscribers to this channel yesterday. And I want to say a sincere thank you to those of you who've recently joined in. And for those of you who've been along for the ride for a while, your support and your comments and your participation is, as always, much appreciated. Such a fun community, and I just really enjoy being a part of it. So today we're going to be doing a flip of this insert. This is the Traveler's Notebook DIY insert that I'm using this year. Let me do a comparison for you. This is a regular TN, it's the standard size. So I just wanted to do a quick comparison so you can see the size difference, right? So it's a little bit taller, but significantly wider. I tend to like these smaller regular inserts for travel, and I use them for my weeks. But when I'm doing kind of at home or local art journaling, I prefer them to be in inserts that are a little bit larger, and most of them tend to be, the largest paper in here is a 9 by 12 inches folded in half. So as with all Traveler's Notebook inserts, this is just one signature. So it's a bunch of paper folded in half. And this one has got a wallpaper sample cover, which is my usual basic saddle stitching. Okay. And let's do a flip of this one. So this journal is Volume 1 of 2020. So it starts in January of 2020 and I think ends, let's take a look here, at the end of June. Okay, so it took me about 6 months to get through this one. And as I've mentioned in other journals, it does take me a while to get through some of my art journals because I have so many other journals going on at the same time. I've got my morning pages, I've got my weeks, there's always a bunch of different things going on. So this has got a mix of different kinds of paper. And I do tip-ins. I know someone had asked that before as well. Let me just repeat that. I basically do my tip-ins on the borders of pages, and I just use packing tape to glue it down. As another one here. So this, as I was saying, this has got a variety of different kinds of paper. There's wallpaper, watercolor paper, there's drawing paper. Here's an example of Tomoe River paper. There's, scrapbook paper. And what I do with this journal is sometimes I am in here every day, just depending on when the mood strikes, and sometimes I'm not. And when I'm in here every day, I tend to kind of do a combination of things, as you have seen if you've been around with my channel for a while, it looks very similar. I have some sketches, I have collages, I have notes. I take lots and lots of notes, and I'm always writing. So that to me is kind of my comfort zone, is the writing. And over the years, I've been adding more sketching and collages to my journals. So this is around the time COVID-19 essentially became a factor here in the United States. And so I was just kind of keeping track of, some of the information as it was coming out. So again, lots of tip-ins, lots of sketching. I so like that there's a place to go play that is not precious. And I don't necessarily, when I sit down to start a page, I know there are people who do this. They keep sketchbooks where the whole page is really well constructed and designed ahead of time. That's just not how I tend to work. Sometimes, like this particular spread, right? I did these sketches at different times in the day. So it's not like I sat down, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do all of this. I probably had time to do this, and then I came back and added her. This is a very unusual page for me in that it's got so much material. I tend to not do this as often, but I'm kind of playing to just see, what does that look like? I just love using old ephemera. So one of the questions I've had on my channel before is, where do you get all this stuff? So this is a page from an old bank checkbook. Remember those days? So what I end up doing is essentially the ephemera that you see here is all stuff that either has come in the mail in some way, shape, or form, or that I have picked up along my travels. So if I'm, out of the house, you end up getting parking tickets, receipts for things. This, for example, came from the Museum of Fine Arts. They have a really cute insert pamphlet that they give to kids so that they can, talk about Asia in this particular case. And so I just picked it out of there. Here's an example of an image that came in a brochure for dancing, a dancing troupe that was in town, and I was specifically interested to include pieces from China because this was about the time that we were having some, don't get me started, but bashing on how the virus is Chinese and all of that kind of nonsense. Anyway, so just kind of adding some of those, playing with 100 faces, just kind of seeing, how do you capture different faces in different styles. Again, sometimes, like I said, I don't tend to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Disciplined about making sure that I do something every single day. So for example, here's a perfect example. People have asked me that question, do I do this every day? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Here's an example of, this was the beginning of May. That's on May 9th, and May 9th, right? And then here's June. So that's basically how much I got done in May in this particular insert. Right? So sometimes that happens. This is, when you give your car to a valet, there's always stuff that they throw in. So this is from the valet ticket, for example, different kinds of collages. So I just really enjoy keeping track of what's happening in my day, sketches that I'm interested in, art that I find. I picked up, because I know I'm going to get this question, I picked up from a library book sale an old Victorian fashions book, and I think I paid 50 cents for it. And so what I do is I cut around the images in there, and then sometimes I add color, like in this particular case, I think it's marker, to use those images. So that's just kind of fun, finding old things in stashes that, I throw the envelope out, but that's kind of a cool thing to keep. Keeping a track of the corona numbers, the COVID numbers, both confirmed and deaths. As always, I'm reading, and if I'm reading a graphic novel, there's always a link to my Goodreads account down below. I will take some sketches from the comics that I read, just because I like to get a sense for how people capture faces and expressions and things like that. It's unusual, but every now and then I will also just decide I want to just play with paint. No sketches, no words. That's not necessarily my sweet spot, but it's kind of fun to just try something different. That tends to be more my style. There's always an image and then there's always text. Look at this. I actually did something with the black page. I'm always doing that. I'm like, I put a page in there that's, black, in this particular case, acrylic ink. And I'm like, I'm going to do something. And I believe I just stamped with, I think it's Moonlight. I think it's the color that's ink pad is. So, kind of playing along with stuff in my supplies. Taking notes, something I always do. Again, one of the things that happens is when I go to museums, there's always brochures that I pick up, and I hold on to them because I like the images, and I figure, well, why not go ahead and use it? Again, images from comics that really speak to me at a particular moment in time, right? Paying attention to just what's been happening in terms of mental health and the emotional ride we are all on during this pandemic time. Same thing coming from comics. I love using washi in my journals. I have a moderate collection, I would say. Compared to some people, it's a very small collection, but for me, it's a moderate collection. And I kind of like just, throwing those in from time to time. There's always stamping. There's always collage images. Again, things that come in the mail. So this is an example of something that came in the mail from some, I think is a university, alumni stuff. And I just love that idea because today we're not so much spending time face to face. It's all, we're connecting in various ways. I kind of like the image of that. There's always scrapbook paper in here as well. So as you can see, I have a typical thing that I do in my journals when it comes to my art journaling. I don't have a plan. As I said, some people do, and I always think that's interesting. They sit down and go, okay, I'm going to do this today. I have no idea. I open up to the next available page. I tend to work chronologically. It's very rare that I bounce back and forth between my book, within my book, right? If you see something here, it happened after June 24th for me. So, this is one of the, the images I think I used. Let me see. Is it in here? I think I was playing with giraffes for some reason. Just the idea of do you fit in or not. I think somewhere in here there's an image of a giraffe right there, right? So I just really love that image. So kind of using that same image to try and capture that, just using water-soluble fountain pen ink and then just putting some water with a brush pen on top of it and just seeing how everything kind of slides along. My nephew was running for class president, so in case you've seen this, this was kind of the campaign he was running, so I used some of those. Same thing, here's the collage from that Victorian fashions book I was talking about. There's always, you know, again, ephemera coming from places. I have little Project Life cards that every now and then I remind myself to go ahead and use. And more sketches. I try to do, you know, trying to use the same image using 3 different colors of ink to see how that would work. And that's it. So that's 6 months worth. Oh, the garbage guys are just going by, so apologize for that noise. But that's 6 months worth of creative play in this particular journal. As I said, I really like when I'm working in journals, I love the boundness of books, and I've been talking about that the last couple of Friday Flips as well. But one of the things that's really nice about that, so here's a perfect example, okay? So this is volume 1 of 2020. Here's volume 2. So I am about just a couple of pages away from completing this particular journal, right? So this is done, and there'll probably be the flip that you will see next week. Same idea. The paper, the journal size is a bit smaller. Let me take this out so you can see that. It's a tad smaller. I'm not exactly sure why that is the case. Maybe I was using a different kind of water paper color size, whatever. So it's a little bit different, but what's nice about this, so here's volume 1 and volume 2, right? So the point I was trying to make was, if you take a look, if this is one bound book, because I add so much material to it, to any particular book that I'm working in, the ones that I do that are more creative and art journaling style, they get really fat. And if that's one book, I have to worry about working over a hump. See this? See what happens there? I can't do that. It is annoying, and I know many people complain about the humps. And the way I get away from dealing with working over a hump is I keep my inserts separate. You can always bind these up when you're done into a book if you want. So that way, you know, it's book style without having to deal with it while you're working. So that's volume 1 and 2. This is almost done. So volume 3 is waiting and ready to go. Here's that same fabric journal covers, and there's links on my channel about how I make these fabric covers from samples from upholstery. So easy to do. And I went ahead and just made this a traveler's notebook cover by punching holes in them. So this is the one that's waiting up in line for me to go. This is number 3. So that's what I have for you today. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know down below. As always, I'd love to see anything that you are playing with, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.